Hey, this is the World Advice Channel too. What I want to talk about today is the Trump, or I should say Trump's reaction to the DC plane crash. Okay, the plane crash that happened either a day or a few ago that has killed all the people on board. You know, when a passenger plane crashed into a military helicopter is what I'll be talking about today when it comes to how he reacted for the press conference. So now that I mention that, let's get started. So when it comes to what my reaction to it is, when it comes to how Trump reacted, is it shows typical conservative behavior, okay? Instead of actually trying to figure out how to solve problems to the issue, he just always wants to deflect and blame someone else for it, okay? Like this guy literally is blaming diversity, diversity, planning or whatnot, whatever you like to call it, DEI specifically is what it's called, simply because, simply for this plane crash, which there's like literally no evidence at this point to indicate any of that had anything to do with anything at this point, okay? I don't even know how the hell that even comes up for that matter, okay? But he's blaming DEI on this plane crash that killed 67 people, who, of course, are not only dead but are never going to be properly buried because obviously their bodies, common sense would indicate, when something like this happens, would have turned into ash, if anything. So it's quite a tragedy, not only in terms of what happened to them, but their families won't even be able to really give them a proper burial. And all he could spend his time talking about is DEI, 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 and blaming his political opponents and all that type of stuff. And this is exactly what I said for one of my videos previously about Trump, okay? That's all he is good at. And it's not even just a case of what all he is good at, it's all conservatives are good at. Instead of actually finding problems to actual solutions, all they can do is victim blame and victim blame and victim blame. And as I can recall, as far as I can remember, I might be wrong, but I can recall when it comes to something issues that obviously are facing people today, such as obviously no surprise, inflation, and a lot of the issues America is facing, but particularly of course inflation, instead of actually finding a solution to a problem, guess what? He's just going to blame someone else for it in order to distract people and get people riled up because this is who Donald Trump is. This is just who he is. Okay, it just even comes down to even just the history of America for that matter. Instead of actually dealing with the issues, particularly in the South, like the fact that like why has our uh haven't our places been built up that much? Why are the people here so poorly educated and so on and so forth? Instead of just actually focusing on those particular things, that obviously could make the welfare and lifestyle of people living in the American South better, let's just blame, surprise, 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 black people for everything. Black people are responsible for this, black people are responsible for that, they're committing too much crime, and blah, 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 blah. Let's blame black people for this. And this is exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to conservative. They always have to find some enemy in some way, shape, or form instead of actually taking effing responsibility for the fact that they have to actually solve the problem. Okay, and obviously this is a case of bad management when it comes to this particular situation, which obviously, especially when you look at a party that has actually historically been against improving the infrastructure bill, it would actually, it actually kind of reflects a lot on them, because it's exactly what Biden was fighting against, or I should say, was fighting for improving infrastructure in America, and something like this happens, which obviously shows that there was some degree of poor planning or something, which kind of relates to infrastructure anyway, you know. But of course, instead of course, actually, like I was saying before, dealing with the actual issues, like, oh God, maybe we need to improve the infrastructure of America. Maybe we need to have better training and this and that. Let's just end up blaming it on someone else for that matter. Okay, and this is who Trump is, and that is who he is. and that is all he's ever going to be, okay? And for the next upcoming few years, it's just going to be more chaos, more problems, more this, more that. And that's all Trump can freaking do, okay? Just simply blame someone else. It's not my fault. It's your fault, and this and that. Like he's always been. He's just a child, just grown up for that matter. And you're not going to see any real change when it comes to, of course, Donald Trump, because that's just who he is. He's a piece of shit, to answer your question, okay? And that is what's going to next few years is going to be. I definitely can predict, at least to a certain extent. Maybe he might actually change things, even though I don't like him. Maybe he might ability to change things, to be fair. But a lot of it is just going to be, I'm more certain than not, just victim blaming. You're responsible for this. This is your fault. It's your fault. This is your fault. This is your fault. This is your fault. Blah, 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 blah. Instead of actually fucking figuring out a solution to a problem. Like maybe, for example, if we want to resolve inflation, for example, maybe we should have like a stimulus bill, common sense would indicate that might be $5-10 trillion or something to kind of help improve the inflation issue for that matter. Or maybe we'll find some sort of, you know, way to, of course, figure out, of course, common sense would indicate maybe, maybe stall the bills a little bit, have the government pay for some of your bills to a certain extent. In other words, just taking away some taxes so it's at least affordable for goods and everyday services again or something. Or you can be like Trump and just instead of actually coming up with solutions, like maybe having a $10 trillion, few trillion dollar, you get the point, stimulus bill to kind of help deal with the inflation issue directly. Instead of doing that, of course, like I was saying before, be like Trump, just find a way to blame Biden, Obama, and the radical left Antifa people all over again. Like that's all he does. That's all he does. Let's blame them for it. Because some way, somehow, Obama, particularly Obama, has something to do with this, okay? And so on and so forth. He probably plotted this and he probably did something to make this happen. So that's the truth of the matter. And that's what America is going to get. He's just simply a con man. He's just going to waste his time complaining and this and that and deflecting. And that's who he is. And that's really the truth of the matter. So anyway, this is my video. All I have to say is that I hope you enjoyed it and found it informative. And just remember, if you like this video and videos like this, remember to thumb this video up and hit the subscribe button. And this is all I have to say. And simply put, I'm out. So bye.